We are making a fall time classic. We are making a mushroom risotto. It is creamy, it's delicious, and it's really sort of infused with all of that goodness, like mushroom flavor. And especially around this time of year, it is time to really dive into this and make it the ultimate, because it's actually quite simple, but with a few little tips and tricks, you're gonna make it really the best you've ever had. Now, I'm gonna start off with making the stock. We're gonna make like a porcini stock to feed our rice as it cooks. So what I'm gonna do is, in a saucepan, I am going to go ahead and add some dried porcini mushrooms. And these are something I have to specialty order online because they're very hard for me to find in a supermarket. And it's a step I don't think you should skip, because this gives you a ton of really beautiful mushroom flavor. So to that, I'm gonna add some water, and it's gonna look like it's too much water for the amount of mushrooms, but trust me when I tell you, it's gonna work out super perfect. And then to that, I'm gonna add a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. I'm gonna put this onto the stove to bring to a simmer, and I'm just gonna keep it at a simmer while everything else gets going. Now, it's important that you keep your stock close to your pan that you're gonna make your rice in. And speaking of pans, you really wanna make sure you use a shallow but really kind of wide pan for this, and you don't use a saucepan. When you use a saucepan to make risotto, you're gonna get uneven heat distribution to your rice, meaning that the outside of your rice in that saucepan is gonna cook perfectly, while the center of the rice is gonna be quite mushy. So using a pan like this one allows for even heat distribution, and your rice is gonna cook nice and even, which is why the Italians would never use a small deep pot to make a risotto. It's a no-no. In terms of what other mushrooms you're gonna need, I'm using a mixture of Shiitake mushrooms and baby bellas, or also known as Cremini. Now, I'm gonna be honest, if I lived in a place that was close to like a Wegmans or close to like a great market in the city, and I had the option to use a mix of wild mushrooms, that's what I would use. But because I live in the middle of absolutely nowhere, I have a hard time getting, really cool exotic things. But these are mushrooms that are pretty much available in most grocery stores, and they have really good, like, deep flavor for being readily available everywhere, and nice and easy to source, and they're really delicious. And what I'm doing is I'm just slicing the baby bellas, and the Shiitake mushrooms, they kind of come already sliced like that. And if some of them are really, really long, I'll cut them in half. If not, I'll just leave them as is. This is about the size that you want them. You'll get different textures, and it'll look different as you cook them, and it's gonna be fantastic. So let me just finish these up, and then we'll get cooking them. To my skillet pan with extra virgin olive oil, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my mushrooms. I'm gonna add in the Shiitake, and I'm gonna add my creminis. I am gonna add a pinch of salt now. I don't mind that it's gonna draw out excess moisture, because I want it to, because I want those mushrooms to cook down, develop some color, develop some texture, and then I'll take them out and I'll add them into my risotto at the very, very end. So I'm just gonna let these go. It's gonna take about 10-ish minutes, and then I'll move on to the next step. Mushrooms look absolutely perfect. I'm just gonna get them out. I'm gonna pull them closest to me. I'm gonna pull them out. I'm just gonna use like a slotted spoon to get them out of there. These are just gonna set aside at this point, because I wanna add them towards the end. My stock mixture came up to a simmer, lowered it as low as it would go, because I don't wanna evaporate it. I just wanna keep it at a warm temperature, because you don't wanna add cold stock to the mushrooms as they cook. Come on, a few more. All good. Whatever's left in there, it's gonna have to just do. Another drizzle of extra virgin olive oil to the pan. Remember, this is a really easy, simple recipe, but technique is really key. So I'm gonna add in my onion. You could also do shallots. I just did a half of a yellow onion. I don't want anything too overpowering. I'm gonna cook it into that olive oil for a few minutes, or until it softens, and then we'll go in with the garlic. Get that garlic in. Cook it for just like 30 seconds or so. You want to cook out that raw garlic flavor. Add in your risotto rice or arborio rice, or any short grain rice. That's really the best rice for this. You see how it's almost shiny because I coated it in that olive oil that was in the pan? Don't skip that step. I know you're kind of tempted to just add everything in, add in your stock and walk away, and you can do that, but you're not gonna get risotto, because what makes risotto different than just like a regular rice dish is the texture. So what I'm gonna do now is just kind of toast it into that onion oil mixture just for like a minute, and that's gonna add another layer of flavor to your overall dish. Looks great. I'm gonna add a splash of white wine. You want about a half a cup. I'm gonna let that evaporate before I start adding my stock. Now this is the point where if you wanna take a FaceTime call, set your phone right here, but you don't walk away. Risotto is not the type of thing you wanna walk away from, because you need to feed it the stock when your rice is ready for it. So you know how we just added that splash of white wine? We're not adding any stock until that white wine has absorbed, evaporated, and you'll know because your rice is gonna start to go from like liquidy to dry, and when you pull it together with your wooden spoon and you kind of put it down and you drag it back, it doesn't all go in because it doesn't have enough liquid. When it looks like it's at that point, that's when you start adding your stock, one ladleful at a time. We're almost there, not quite yet. If you want to omit the wine, feel free. I just like to add it because it gives you another note, and also it gives you really good balance with some acidity. You see how there's no liquid pulling into the center? It's all been absorbed. That's when you know you're ready for a ladleful of the stock. And I'm just gonna make sure I don't grab the stock from the very bottom, because it has a little bit of grit in it from the mushrooms. So I just grab it from the very top, and look at that gorgeous color. Look at it. And you see how it's liquidy right now? If you drag it back, you see how there's a pool of liquid? You can't add more stock until that pool of liquid is no longer there. So I'm gonna continue to just stir and add until the rice is just about fully cooked through. I would say the rice is about 5 minutes away from being done, and this is the part where I took the dried porcini out of that stock and I gave them a really good chop. Now I'm gonna add them in, okay, along with the mushrooms that we sauteed. I'm gonna leave just a few mushrooms behind to top the risotto with it. And now I'm gonna add more stock. Remember, I'm just gonna tilt the pan so I don't get any grit from the bottom. This is gonna need probably 2 more ladlefuls of the stock just to finish cooking the rice through. You also need to heavily season this at this point. Now I did make sure to add a pinch of salt to my stock as it was simmering, or as it was on the burner, but it does need a good amount of seasoning. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a good pinch of salt and a little black pepper. And I'm just gonna continue to cook this until the rice is just about done, and then we'll put a couple finishing touches on it, and then it's ready. Rice is just about ready, so you know how I like to finish my risotto. Last ladleful. Turn it off. Butter at room temperature, not too cold. Good heavy handful of fresh parm. Okay, where's my map? There we go. Put a lid on this. Just put a lid on it. I don't have a lid that fits this pan, but you know what I do have? A pizza pan. Let it sit 5 minutes off the heat. It will absorb that extra liquid that we just added. The butter will melt, the cheese will melt, the rice will be perfect. Give it 5 minutes covered off the heat, and then you're gonna be ready to taste perfection. Look at it. Okay, now we have a saying in Italy. Risotto should be come una onda, like a wave, like you know the wave at the shore. When you pull it back, look what the risotto does. You see how it kind of like a wave. You see that? That is the perfect texture of risotto in my humble of opinions. And to me, a risotto, like a mushroom risotto, it's very simple, but you just need to execute it right. And in Italy, look at this texture. Look at it. Perfection, absolute perfection. You would always eat your risotto on a warm plate, and you would never, ever eat risotto with a spoon. It must be eaten with a fork. I don't make the rules, they make the rules, and they're correct. Now, you guys, it is so delicious. It is so rich. It's got such like creaminess to it because of all of that starch from the rice. It's deep in flavor. It's just absolutely sublime. When I go to serve it, I'm going to top it with more mushrooms, more cheese, another drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, and it is perfect. Now you make sure that you take it from stove to table within 5 minutes of it being done, because the longer it sets, the more it will absorb all of that excess moisture and all that excess liquid, and then your rice will be dry. So we don't want that. So serve it right away. Go to laurainthekitchen.com for the written recipe. Hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.